Well, well, well. Look what the cat dragged in. A Lenovo Yoga 7 Pro. This one I bought off the Lenovo website the day that it launched, quite literally. It's been in my possession for, actually it's been in my possession for a little while. I was kind of slow with this review here, but I was also doing a comparative review. This laptop here is very similar if you watch my review on the Lenovo IdeaPad 5 Pro. The Xiaoshen, I guess, is the Chinese model because it's a Chinese model. Watch my review on that laptop. You'll notice this laptop looks almost exactly the same. I think it's actually the exact same chassis overall. Some changes here and there, slightly different keyboard on this. The IdeaPad 5 Pro I had a OLED screen. The Canadian model I don't think does, or if it does, it's a lower resolution. This model here has some advantages over that other model that I was just talking about. This one here is an IPS screen, which isn't necessarily worse or better than an OLED. It just depends. You're not going to risk burn-in or anything like that on this. It's still a very beautiful screen. Some other advantages of this laptop are improved speakers as well. And this one here comes with an RTX 3050. This here laptop is very, very thin. Meant to be very, very, very thin. Probably won't look so thin on camera. All metal design, top, bottom, and interior. And because it is AMD, it's going to have incredibly good battery life. It's going to have very good efficiency. It's not going to run hot at all, and it's going to be nice and quiet. So if you're looking for a very professional looking laptop, very professional performing laptop that you can do other things, I call this a hybrid laptop, like a gaming laptop, this may be the one for you. So this is a very compelling laptop. I think that after you guys watch this review, you may consider this laptop as your daily driver. Yoga 7 Pro from Lenovo. I love these things. Very similar to the IdeaPad 5 Pro, which was the Xiaoshen laptop that I already reviewed for this year. I've already done that review. I actually imported it from China, but it translates to, I guess, the IdeaPad 5 Pro. This is a very similar laptop, but very, very nice all-metal chassis. I would consider these Halo Lenovo laptops. A lot of people think of ThinkPads as Halo laptops, but ThinkPads have a huge range from low to high. You can get all the way up there to some very expensive, very Halo ThinkPads, but the ThinkPad name in general is highly variable from Lenovo. ThinkBook is the same. You can get some very high-end ThinkBooks. You can also get some low-end ThinkBooks. They're not low-end, but they're lower down the stack. Yogas, I find, when they're the actual Yoga Pro, the Yoga Pros are very high-end. So all metal top there, metal on the back, metal on the bottom, intake there, speakers on each side. Ports are always nice on these guys here. HDMI on the left, 2 USB-C, one with power, but you can actually use both, doesn't really matter. Right side there, camera kill switch, power on, headphone in, and you also get 1,500 grams. It's like 3.4 pounds, somewhere around there. The charger is a little bit bigger than some of the other ones. How many watts is this? Oh, 140 watts. Holy smokes. This one here has dedicated graphics. I think you can get these without dedicated graphics from Canada. 1,953 grams, like 4.3 pounds, something like that. That's actually not bad for a thin, very premium all-metal laptop there with a 140 watt charger. The difference here is that the keyboard on my Xiaoshen was a shiny keyboard. This is a matte kind of, almost like a Microsoft Surface tablet. You'll see when I bring in its convertible brother for another video. I have a full video comparison, but you'll see that when I bring in its brother or sister that has the Yoga that's convertible, basically it has the shiny style key. These have that, I guess I'd call them like Microsoft Surface style. I guess you can actually see the speakers here, the down firing ones at least, and they're nice speakers there. The kind of higher watt square style looks really good. NVMe is a 2280, so full size 2280. There is not a second one. Wi-Fi is upgradable, however. You get all your VRMs in that under here. RAM is soldered to the motherboard, so you can't upgrade it. Again, 16 gigabytes on this. The IdeaPad 5 Pro, the Xiaoshen, had 32. That was really nice. Dual fans here. They look very interesting kind of size. This one's slightly smaller than that one. This one here is dedicated graphics, so you do get right here. This is the APU. In this model here, you get the RTX 3050 under there, 6 gigabyte, and then you get the AMD there. To this, we'll just get the Yoga out of here, the Yoga 2-in-1, because it's slightly different. You can see here that this has very similar cooling to the two of them. The Yoga 7 Pro here is basically the same motherboard as the 5 Pro, IdeaPad 5 Pro. I think it's exactly the same. The only difference is that location of that there. And this one has a dedicated graphics. My model didn't, but the You can get the AMD, I believe, also with dedicated graphics. This one here uses probably the same exact fans. 85 watt hour battery. That is a gigantic battery on a 14-inch laptop. And with the internals of this laptop, CPU that's on, it's going to have crazy good battery life. This one here also has the similar type speakers. You can see that there, but they're actually not quite as big if I can show up on camera. Right, this has the actual big boy speakers that you're going to get on like a Yoga 9i, which have incredibly good sound and really good bass. These will still have good sound, but they won't have quite as much bass. These things should actually thump quite a bit. The biggest advantage of this one here is you get dual NVMe. It does come with a 2242, but it's got a straight up adapter on it. It's actually hooked up to the full size there. I guess technically you can just take that out, pop that off, put in a 2280 and a second NVMe slot. Not common on a 14-inch laptop. And it's got integrated graphics and dedicated graphics, so I guess that's nice. 2280. This one probably has the best interior in my opinion because you get the biggest battery. Yeah, you do get slightly less speaker oomph, but I mean, I guess they could put the speakers in the one versus the other. It's not a big deal, but I don't know, these are just better speakers. Cooling is going to be very similar on the two of them. The Yoga here, single fan style setup, but it's also very robust, very massive fan for a 2-in-1, so very, very nice laptops overall. So let's actually start with a typing test here. Just so you know what the difference is, I'm actually working on this other laptop here, but I just want you to see the difference in the keycaps. You can see this is the same Lenovo Yoga, but this one here is the convertible model. Has the same type keyboard as the IdeaPad 5 Pro, which has a plasticky kind of metallic keyboard, right? Slightly less travel. This one here has a tiny bit more travel, and it's kind of that Microsoft Surface rubbery. You can see that actually they're pretty large keycaps vertically, the Z height. Not going to be like a massive laptop from back in the day, but it's a full millimeter more, I'd say, on that keycap itself. And then you also get tons of travel, so they feel fantastic. Yeah, so I mean, that's going to be one of the best keyboards you're ever going to use on a laptop, period. Just it is. A Lenovo Legion, I guess I would prefer. Has a numpad, and I guess I like the keycaps on them more. But otherwise, this is like a 10 out of 10. Right? There's not really much to compare to. It's massively better than a MacBook, not even in the same realm as a MacBook. Most, professional laptops aren't even going to be close to as good as this. So this is one of the best keyboards you'll ever use, period. I mean, it all depends if you like that rubbery texture versus like the other ones, I guess, but this is a 10 out of 10 keyboard. Trackpad is massive, as you can see there. Nice smooth texture to it, right? You get that nice smooth texture, not like the body there, not like a plasticky feeling kind of thing. Nice strong click too. Right, fantastic. Oh, they even tell you 1.5 millimeter of keyboard. Okay, and because this is what I'd call a gaming laptop in some ways, or just, dedicated performance machine, you can come in here and there is actual like performance modes. Some Lenovo stuff has this, some doesn't. This one here, if you go auto, it's kind of like a balanced, I'd call it. They call it auto, but it's actually balanced. This is eco mode. I don't know, it always makes the screen so dim, but it'll be battery mode, so it'll really, lower watts to the system, which will decrease performance, but massively increase battery life and decrease fans. Performance mode, these aren't actually changing, but it's the same thing. You can do function Q to switch them here, right? Function Q, or you can do them here manually. There's some other stuff here like GPU overclocking. You can come in here and, overclock your GPU. So let us turn it on, enable. It just allows you to get a little bit more of that. The 3050 isn't some behemoth for gaming, but it's going to be way more capable than integrated graphics. So, I mean, you can obviously throw it in, get this extra 200 megahertz on the clocks, 400 on the VRAM, on the video memory, and you should get more performance. You don't have to do that, but you can. Very vibrant here, very clear. Great screen, to be honest. It's not super bright. I mean, I wish it was a little bit brighter, I'd say, just looking at it, but otherwise it's really nice. Again, we'll pull that down. Not an OLED, so these are not absolute blacks. Not sure if it'll show up on camera, but it's a good IPS. I don't see any bleed here. I can kill off all these lights here for this part here, right? Just a little bit of light on the left there. There's no kind of bleed there. Right? The IPS panel looks really good here. All these colors are vibrant. We'll come into one more where there's a bit more motion here. Really nice, actually, to be honest. The other thing is it's not a glossy screen. So glossy screens, the colors are a little bit more vibrant. You can improve it by, if you made glossy, then the colors would pop more, or of course an OLED, but typically it's the glossiness that really makes all the colors pop. But overall, I'd say for like a matte IPS screen, it's actually very nice. Okay, we're gonna do an audio test now. I expect this to actually sound extremely good and probably loud. Those speakers that I could see in there were very good, and I've used that type of speaker before on some of these laptops. So if you have headphones, you're gonna wanna watch them. It's getting very loud, 85, 86 at peak. So that's about as good as you're going to get on a Windows laptop that's 14-inch. I guess the only one that I've seen that's really beaten this recently would be the G14, the Asus G14, for a 14-inch laptop at least. That's the only one I've seen that's beat this. There really aren't many laptops that could compete with this in the 14-inch space at all, let alone like even in the 16-inch space. There would be very few laptops that would be able to compete with this. This would be approaching MacBook Pro. It's better than a MacBook Air, it just is. Not as good as a MacBook Pro 14-inch, but it's in the realm of the discussion where it's an incredibly good set of speakers. The low-end bass is there. You can actually hear it in that tune, in that track. I don't know about your speakers, but I can hear them. The low-end bass is there, and there's mid-range bass, and then it goes all the way up to the high end. It's nice and clear, a little bit of thump, nice voluminous clarity to the music. These would be very similar to what you get on the Lenovo Yoga 9i 16-inch. That one had, I think, a little bit more bass, probably just because the chassis is more voluminous. There's a bit more rumble, but I think they're actually the same speakers. Okay, now we're just going to do an audio test for noise. So we're in performance mode, I believe. Yes, we are. And we'll start with that. Kind of just check the thermals and throttling and look for noise levels in that. If it, we'll actually get the performance numbers after the fact in the benchmark section. So I recently tested the Yoga version of this laptop. I recently tested the 2-in-1 version of this laptop right here. It's a very similar laptop. It's a 2-in-1 convertible, a little bit thinner, but it only has a 65-watt charger, and it doesn't have dedicated graphics. There's just less wattages going to the CPU on that model there. So it got a good score, but definitely not as high. All right, so the laptop here, let's check the wattages. So it's definitely putting a lot more watts into it. This one here, we're putting 56 watts or so. The Yoga here, this 2-in-1, it wasn't able to put in that kind of wattages. The charger was 65. I mean, the whole system was pulling 65 watts technically. So it's putting about 30 watts, which is about the same as you get with that chip in like a Legion Go or OG Ally. That's about that. Here you can see we're dumping way more watts, up to 60 watts here, right, during these tests. So in theory, the performance will be massively higher, which it is. I mean, this thing's running, which will kill it, but we're getting several thousand points more in Cinebench or on this model here than you'd get on the Yoga 2-in-1 because of those higher wattages there. So that's just something to be considerate of. I mean, they're both going to be relatively performant, but you just have to be aware of what you're buying. The Yoga 2-in-1 over here, I mean, same CPU, but it's a 65-watt charge. That's usually your first tell. I mean, 65-watt charger, you're not going to be able to dump then therefore 60 watts into the CPU. The whole system gets 65 watts. Otherwise, you drain. So, I mean, this thing's still performant. 8845HS still performant. 12, 13,000 on Cinebench or so, plus minus whatever, kind of that range there. This one here, I mean, you're dumping a lot more watts into that there. 60 watts or so. So, just that face value here, we're getting closer to 16,000. Right, around 50 dB. No annoying fan because you get dual fan in this here setup. Dual heat pipe, so it's it's going to run relatively cool. Not even close to thermal throttling over here. Come into balanced here. Right, we come down here. Few bits less watts into the CPU, right? Still respectable, but we're down to like 50 watts or so instead of 60. So it gets a little quieter. You'll see even less watts going in. You can see in silent mode over here. Package power is down to 12, but even in silent mode, you'll get respectable performance. It'll basically be silent once the fans turn off. So silent mode is essentially silent. And here's a look at some benchmarks. You can see here that in silent mode, we are getting 11,000, which is actually respectable considering we're in silent mode at like 15 watts. Balanced mode, you're getting about 15,700, which is very good, obviously, for the CPU here. And then when you step it up to performance, you actually get a little bit more performance. Technically, these AMD 8845HS don't need, the full wattage to get that extra performance. Running around 50 to 60 watts, it's not going to make a big difference. That 10 watts extra, it really does perform really well at 50 watts. Wi-Fi here is exceptionally good. 680 down, 620 up, quite good. SSD is also very fast here. You can see Gen 4 drive, SK Hynix, very, very good drive. You can see here that battery life is going to be very good. We're at 78%, only 60 watt hours remaining on the battery of 75. So we've already burned off 15 watt hours, and we're still getting around 8.5 hours. So this is, realistically on idle, full brightness, full refresh, we're looking at 10 hours, potentially even a little bit more, maybe even 12 hours on idle here. You can see then when I moved to 1080p YouTube, this thing's been running for a couple hours here. You can see that we were averaging about -7 watts or so. So again, even at 78% with YouTube playing, we're probably going to get 8 to 10 hours of YouTube playback. That meaning out of 100%, you're still probably going to get 10, maybe even 11 hours of YouTube playback. Very, very efficient chip here. Built-in webcam, once again, lots of light on the left, a little bit on the right, not much coming in from the front, and it's doing a good job. I actually think that the 2-in-1 might have been a better camera, or maybe it's just the way the screen showed it. Super undersaturated, I don't look super oversaturated, I kind of look almost the way I do, maybe a little bit pale, but a lot of the times these, when they don't have a lot of light, they'll just blow the scene up and I look kind of like a ghost. Not so much here. Okay, so now's the fun part of the video where I get to play video games. This is Baldur's Gate 3. We're on a 1600p screen here with a 3050. Now it is a 6 gigabyte, but again, this is a fairly low wattage system, and we'll see what we can do here. So we'll just start with, let's just get a baseline. We'll go quality off. So we'll just go no scaling and ultra. No scaling, ultra will give us, that's pretty good. Yeah, that's pretty good. 35 on average. And it's not dipping, right? You can see 15 there. GPU, what is it? The CPU is pulling, oh jeez, it's only pulling 15 watts. That's pretty good. Let's try balanced DLSS. That should get us pretty close to 50. Yeah, and by the way, this is the most demanding part in the game by far, right? Like if there's a lot easier places in this game where you're going to be indoors, you'll be getting frames like this, 55. Even outdoor areas, you'll be getting basically 60. So most of the game, balanced mode, balanced DLSS on ultra, and you're going to be getting 60. And then there's a couple areas in this part of the city where this is a brutal area of the game. That's why I come here. Okay, let's actually really show you guys what this thing can do here. So we're going to test Ghost of Tsushima here. Game's brand new. Like, I don't know even know how old it is. 2 weeks, maybe? That should be okay. Yeah, and then I think we're at like super high graphics or something. Yeah, very high. We're on high. Let's go down to medium. That's probably fine. I think we're going to be okay with that. Again, this is a lower wattage 3050, not a behemoth type system. I'm just impressed with how low that CPU performs. Look at that, it's pulling 15 watts. It's crazy low. And you can see here, we're pulling 15-ish watts on the CPU. GPU is able to pull a lot more watts, 60. I think that's as much as this GPU can pull, about 60 watts. The CPU itself, could pull more technically if it wanted. I guess it probably just doesn't need to. Probably hitting a GPU bottleneck before CPU here. Yeah, the CPU is at like 28%. It's just not being taxed. So, it's a bit of a mismatch between CPU and GPU. This CPU can power like really could do a 4060 easily, 4070 easily. You probably get with a 4080, even 90 with the CPU. So, this 3050 isn't going to tax it. But anyways, you can see here, we're getting 55, 56 FPS with DLSS. So even though this is a full hybrid laptop, this is what I call a hybrid laptop because you can easily game on a system like this and game well. That's that. What do I think about the laptop? It's fantastic. Just like my Xiaoshin or IdeaPad 5 Pro, it's very similar laptop. Same processor, same chassis basically. There's a very minor differences inside. The advantage of this, it does have a 2280 full-size NVMe. Otherwise, they're basically the same. Realistically, the only difference here, this one actually, I think it has slightly better speakers, I guess, too. And this one also has an RTX 3050. That one didn't. The IdeaPad 5 Pro had an OLED and 32 gigabytes of RAM. This one does not, but it has a beautiful IPS screen. So first we'll go over the negatives. There are almost none. Negative number one, the location of that power button is annoying because when I move the laptop, I accidentally hit it, which sleeps the laptop. That's my first one. Critique number two would be I don't like 16 gigabytes of RAM soldered on a laptop. It should be 32. Period. Period. Increase the price by $100, $150, give it 32, done. Those are my negatives. That's really the only negatives that I have of this laptop. Positives are, I mean, a gorgeous laptop, beautiful chassis, outstanding audio, 4-in IPS screen, outstanding. I guess it would be nice with a little bit brighter, maybe an extra 100 nits. That'd be a little nice, but it's not dim by any means. It's just not the best. I think that's probably, the way to go with that, I'd say. Keyboard is a 10 out of 10. Fantastic keyboard. Nice trackpad. Awesome, especially if you like big ones. I don't really care, but it's fine. And it's beautiful. Right? Crazy good battery life. It's a beautiful laptop. It weighs very little. It's nice and sleek. You can take it with you and to business meetings or to class and that, and you're going to look like, oh, look, I got this beautiful little MacBook here looking thing. But it runs Windows and it can game. If you really need the 32 gigabytes, watch my IdeaPad 5 Pro or Xiaoshen review. I'll put a link up in the bubble and above, and maybe grab that one because it's 32 gigabytes. If you don't care, this one here doesn't have 32 gigabytes, but it does have a 3050. If you want a 3050, this is the one to go with. Awesome laptop.